Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, like, join it or something.
Hey everyone, Lucamus Prime here. So, it is time for another franchise ranking video today. And today, guys, I'm going to be ranking, this time, another horror franchise. And this franchise I'm going to be ranking consists of 2 movies and a mini-series. And this franchise I'm going to be ranking, guys, is none other than the franchise based on the book that was written by Stephen King, which of course is It. So, I'm going to be ranking both the movies alongside the 1990 mini-series. So, this is going to be also, in my opinion, from best to weakest as well, because while the films may have, of course, bad qualities, I don't think there's a terrible one in the franchises. I just think they get weaker and weaker, in my opinion, not worse and worse in my ranking, for me, in my opinion. So, if you guys don't agree with me, that's absolutely fine, but please respect my opinion just like I respect yours. Okay, so, starting with what is definitely my all-time favourite It movie ever, and this is of course as well one of those few films from 2017 which in my opinion is good, guys, because that year was a horrible year for movies in my opinion. And this film, of course, in first place for me is none other than 2017's It, or It Chapter 1 we want to call it, yeah. So this is of course It, the 2017 movie. So yeah, now I definitely really love this film, guys. It's one of my favourite horror films ever, and it's definitely brilliant. So what's great about it is it's got an amazing cast of actors in it. So many of them, like the children who are main characters, are very likable characters, and they're very fun to watch. And when it comes to my favourite part of the film, though, it's most definitely, of course, the villain Pennywise, the dancing clown, who was played in this by Bill Skarsgård, and that's definitely my favourite role of his, an absolutely terrifying, scary villain. And he's also my favourite actor for Pennywise of all time as well, because I think he does an amazing job playing Pennywise, in my opinion, and he makes him the terrifying villain that he is. See, this movie is definitely what you'd want in an It movie, and yeah, as well as Bill Skarsgård, the rest of the cast did a great job of this movie as well, and also as well, the development was also very good for the characters, and the visuals and the CGI was also very impressive as well for a movie, and the horror was definitely there as well, which made it very frightening as well, in my opinion, at times. Goodness me, it was pretty scary. And Andy Muschietti definitely did a great job directing the movie, in my opinion. Really did a great job with it, and it was definitely a very fun movie to watch, and definitely as well pretty scary, of course, as well. And it definitely deserved the awards that it won as well. Oh, absolutely, definitely deserved them. So yeah, and yeah, it was definitely, you know, an amazing adaptation of Stephen King's book, and I really loved it. However, it might not be perfect by any means. I mean, I think bad quality I could say is that, sure, maybe the pacing was a bit slow in some scenes, I guess, really. Some scenes drag on a little bit too long, but not as bad as the next movie, which I'm about to cover. And also, the editing could have also been a bit better, because some scenes were, like, cutting pretty quickly, as I noticed, really. I mean, there were some scenes which you know, lasted for tension, but some of them, you know, were cut a little bit. So maybe we should add more tension, I guess, to some scenes. But it didn't stop the whole movie being a frightening and fun experience for me to watch. And if I was to give It from 2017 a score out of 10, guys, I'd give it a full-blown 8.5 out of 10, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's a great adaptation. Then on to what is my second favourite in the franchise. I'm going to go with what, of course, is the sequel to the first remake. And this, of course, is none other than 2019's It Chapter 2. Once again, directed, of course, by Andy Muschietti. And now, sure, I think this movie is somewhat good, in my opinion. But there's something about it that I really did not like when I watched it. But it didn't stop it being, you know, like, you know, something good to watch, really. So now, this one, of course, covers the remaining parts of Stephen King's book, and it features the adult versions of the main characters from the first movie. So that was definitely nice to see if that happen, and I think the cast did a very good job in this. And my favourite part of this movie, in my opinion, guys, was definitely Bill Hader, who, of course, appears in this as the adult version of Richard Tozier. Like, Bill Hader was absolutely hilarious in this movie as Tozier. Really was so funny, and And the rest of the adult cast also did a great job as well. For example, Jessica Chastain as Beverly Marsh, and also James McAvoy as William Denborough, among many others as well, introduced in this. They all did a very good job. And of course, as well, Bill Skarsgård still nailed it as Pennywise in this. Absolutely. Did a really great job playing him. Still my favourite part of both the movies, in my opinion, is definitely, of course, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. And what's even awesome as well is that Stephen King himself had a cameo appearance as well as a pawn shop owner, which was pretty cool. So yeah, you actually have a franchise creator have a cameo appearance in this film, which was actually pretty cool. So yeah, I do like how they got him to do that. And the CGI as well, in some cases, was also good as well, of course. And the visuals are very good. And the music, you know, in both these films was very good. And this film was no exception by Benjamin in Wallfish. And it was definitely a very good movie, in my opinion, in some cases. But unfortunately, there were some bad qualities that I did have with it. So, for example, now, you know how this film, of course, focuses on the adult versions of the characters? Well, there is some flashbacks where we do see them as they're appearing as children. But the problem is, though, is that due to the actors who play the children getting older in the years since the films almost came out, of course, unfortunately, they had to use de-aging to make them look younger. But unfortunately, in my opinion, the de-aging didn't look that good for them, really, to be honest, in some cases. So you could tell it was CGI, but it was not too bad, though, in my opinion. It wasn't the worst CGI I've seen, thankfully. And also, as well, I think the pacing was also, as well, in my opinion, much more slow in this compared to Chapter 1, in my opinion, because I feel that it kind of felt longer than it actually is, because it felt double its runtime, in my opinion, and that didn't really work for me, because some scenes dragged on really long. They could have probably cut some out and added it in much more faster paced scenes, really, or maybe more intense scenes, for example, maybe more scenes of Pennywise killing people and stuff like that. But unfortunately, yeah, there was a problem of this film having a slow pace, which was disappointing, really, because, you know, this film was good, but apart from, of course, the slow pacing, really. So I thought this was quite underwhelming in comparison. But there was, of course, you know, good things about it. You know, like I said, the adult cast was still good, especially, of course, Bill Hader and Bill Skarsgård continuing to be scary as Pennywise, and, of course, Stephen King's cameo. But the pacing was slow, and I also did not like how Eddie got killed off as well. That was actually pretty sad to see, really, and also, as well, the way Pennywise got sent off, in my opinion, was pathetically done, really. Yeah, I did not like the way they defeated Pennywise in this. I thought it was not good, in my opinion, the way he got defeated. Didn't work for me. Well, they could have done it better, really, but sadly not. Yeah, I think it really was. I thought it was definitely a bit of a letdown how they dealt with Pennywise in this. But nonetheless, I think this movie is still good, in my opinion, and the adult cast are still good actors in this as well, despite, of course, the slow pace and the way Pennywise is defeated and Eddie getting killed and stuff like that. So, if I was to give it a score out of 10, I'd probably give it a very decent score of 6.5 out of 10, in my opinion. So yeah, not terrible by any means, but in my opinion, though, it is underwhelming compared to Chapter 1 due to a slow pace and Pennywise's death scene, and also, as well, and also killing of Eddie as well, in my opinion. So yeah. And then on to what is, of course, my least favorite franchise, but still is somewhat good, in my opinion. I'm going to go, of course, with what is the mini-series of Stephen King's It from 1990. So, now, this movie, of course, is actually, of course, a mini-series, and however, though, it is possible to watch it as a 3-hour movie, which is what I did, because when I watched it as a 3-hour movie altogether, as one movie, and I got this Blu-ray of the whole thing put together into one, so yeah. And so yeah, because there's basically two episodes, guys, and yeah, on DVD and Blu-ray it's 187 minutes, so yeah, it is pretty long. Now, when it comes to this film, the good things about it, so Pennywise is, of course, played by the legendary Tim Curry in this, and I definitely consider him to be my favourite role of Tim Curry as well, because he had lots of scary moments in this, in my opinion, but some parts where he was funny, though, in my opinion. I mean, he's a clown, so yeah, I'm not surprised about that, but yeah. But Tim Curry was still frightening, in my opinion. Definitely my favourite role of Tim Curry. And also as well, the cast of the children, in my opinion, were also probably one of the best parts of the film as well, in my opinion. I think they did a good job as the children in this, in my opinion. They made them likeable characters. And let's also not get the iconic opening, of course, in both this miniseries and the 2017 remake, of course, of Georgie's death scene as well. Like, these are pretty scary, in my opinion, like, frightening. And this film was definitely no exception. And so, yeah. So, while this film has those good qualities I mentioned, you know, such as, you know, Tim Curry's Pennywise and the children, of course, you know, being likeable, and, of course, the iconic opening sequence, of course. Unfortunately, however, there is, you know, quite a few bad qualities I do with this. So, for example, Pennywise, unfortunately, didn't have very much screen time in this, that I felt, which was disappointing. And also, because this is 3 hours, I was expecting it to have a good pace, because it's of course, supposed to be a mini-series. But unfortunately, I feel this mini-series dragged on far too long. Like, because sometimes in 3-hour films, they tend to have a good pace, so they can keep you watching and not get bored. But unfortunately, this one got really boring for me, sadly. So I feel that they added way too much filler scenes, like far too much. Like, if you guys thought Chapter 2 was boring, wait to see this miniseries, because this one, of course, in my opinion, is more boring. And yeah, they could have probably cut out some of those boring scenes and added in, you know, much more intense scenes to keep up with a good pace, but sadly not. And also, while I did like the children in the movie, I unfortunately did not like the adult versions. In my opinion, the adult versions were annoying and not very likable, in my opinion, and of course, also really boring as well. Like, I don't know what the hell happened really at all with the adult scenes. Like, that's why I prefer the main characters when they're children in the miniseries. And I think the adults are much more likable in It Chapter 2, in my opinion. So yeah, that's what I'd say. So yeah, while I think this is decently good, in my opinion, it's unfortunately what I'd say is the weakest out of 8 adaptations that I've seen, the 3 of them. So yeah, if I was to give it a score out of 10, guys, I'd probably give it, you know, a somewhat maybe mediocre or decent score of 6 out of 10, in my opinion. So yeah, it's not terrible by any means, but I feel it needed a lot of work. So they could have probably cut out some boring scenes and give Pennywise more screen time, and also made the adult versions of the characters more likable as well, in my opinion. They should have done that, to be honest. So of course, now that that's my ranking, so here's how I would rank it. So obviously, for me, in first place would be It Chapter 1 from 2017. Second favourite would be It Chapter 2 from 2019. And then my least favourite, of course, would be the 1990 miniseries of Stephen King's It. So yeah, that's my opinion. So yeah, all in all, it's a good franchise, guys. They just get weaker and weaker, in my opinion, not worse and worse. So you're not terrible by any means, just weak, really, in my opinion. So yeah. So guys, this is me doing my franchise ranking of the It adaptations from best to weakest, in my personal opinion. So you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let us know in the comments what you guys think of It franchise, how you guys would rank the films and miniseries, how you guys would rank them. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe if it's in the future. If you would like to be a member, you can start using a piece of lads or a little description, and I'll see you all later.